Captain Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Endeavour and watched the stars through the big window. After 6 months of traveling through empty space, they had finally reached the edge of what humans called known space. But today something was different. "Captain, we have contact," said Officer Kim from his station. His voice was calm, but Sarah could hear the excitement underneath. "Unknown ship approaching from the port side." Sarah moved to look at the screen. There it was, a ship unlike anything humans had ever built. It was long and graceful, almost like a piece of art floating in space. The hull seemed to shine with its own light, and it moved without any visible engines or thrusters. "How big is it?" Sarah asked. "About twice our size," Kim replied. "But Captain, the strange thing is, we cannot detect any energy signatures. It is like the ship is not even there, except we can see it." Sarah felt her heart beat faster. This was it. First contact with an alien species. Everything they did now would be remembered forever. She had trained for this moment her whole life. But nothing could really prepare someone for meeting beings from another world. "Open communication channels. All frequencies," she ordered. Before Kim could even touch his controls, a voice filled the bridge. It spoke perfect English, though there was something odd about the way the words sounded. "Human vessel, this is Council Prime. Valthus of the Zephyrian patrol ship Gentle Wind, we request permission to come aboard your ship. We bring greetings from the Galactic Empire." Sarah looked around at her crew. They all stared back at her with wide eyes. The alien had called their ship by name, though they had never sent any signals identifying themselves. "This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Earthship Endeavour," she replied. "You are welcome aboard our ship, Council Prime Valthus." "We thank you for your cooperation," the voice said. "We will arrive in your docking bay in 10 minutes. Please ensure your atmosphere is suitable for oxygen-breathing life forms." The communication ended, leaving the bridge in silence. "Captain," said Dr. Martinez, the ship's science officer, "how did they know we speak English? How did they know our ship's name?" Sarah shook her head. "I do not know, but we are about to find out. Kim, send word to all departments. We have visitors coming aboard. Security teams to the docking bay, but weapons stay holstered unless I give direct orders." 10 minutes later, Sarah stood in the docking bay with 5 of her crew members. She wore her best uniform and tried to look calm, even though her hands were shaking slightly. The bay doors opened to reveal the alien ship attached to their hull. It had connected without making any sound at all. A door appeared in the alien ship's hull, though Sarah could swear there had been no door there a moment before. Light poured out, and 3 figures stepped through. The aliens were tall, much taller than humans. They stood about 8 feet high and were very thin. Their skin was pale blue and seemed to glow softly. They had 4 arms instead of 2, and their faces were long and narrow with large, dark eyes. They wore robes that seemed to be made of starlight itself. The one in front stepped forward and made a gesture that might have been a bow. "I am Council Prime Valthus," he said. His mouth did not move when he spoke, but somehow the words appeared. In Sarah's mind, in perfect English, "These are my companions, Sub-Council Zeleth and Navigation Prime Corvin. We bring you greetings from the Galactic Empire and an offer of great importance to your species." Sarah tried to hide her amazement. "Welcome aboard the Endeavour, Council Prime Valthus. I am Captain Sarah Chun. This is Dr. Martinez, Officer Kim, Engineer Torres, Security Chief Davis, and Communications Officer Park." Valthus looked at each human in turn, his large eyes studying them carefully. "You are younger than we expected," he said. "But this is not unusual for developing species." "Developing species?" asked Dr. Martinez. "Yes," Valthus replied. "Your people have only recently discovered faster-than-light travel. This makes you what we call a developing species. You are like children who have just learned to walk." Sarah felt a flash of anger at the comparison, but she kept her voice level. "We have been traveling in space for over a century, Council Prime." "Indeed," Valthus said, and Sarah could hear something like amusement in his mental voice. "Chemical rockets and fusion drives. Very impressive for a young species. We were quite surprised when our sensors detected your primitive engines at the edge of Imperial space. Engineer Torres stepped forward. Primitive? Our fusion drives can push us to nearly 10% of light speed. The three aliens looked at each other, and Sarah was sure she heard them laugh, though no sound came from their mouths. Of course, Valthus said kindly. And this is very good progress for your species. Some civilizations take much longer to achieve fusion power. You should be proud. Sarah realized that the aliens thought human technology was much less advanced than it actually was. The Endeavour was using old-style fusion drives because they were reliable for long exploration missions. Humanity had much better technology, but they did not put it on exploration ships. Please, Valthus continued, let us go somewhere comfortable, where we can discuss the Empire's offer to your species. Sarah led them to the ship's main conference room. The aliens moved gracefully, barely seeming to touch the floor. When they sat down, they did so without making any sound at all. The Galactic Empire has existed for over 10 million years, Valthus began. We have brought peace and order to more than 50,000 worlds and hundreds of different species. When a new species like yours develops space travel, we offer them the chance to join our great civilization. What would that mean for humanity? Sarah asked. Protection, Valthus said. The galaxy is a dangerous place filled with hostile forces and deadly technologies that young species cannot handle. The Empire would move your people to safe worlds in the agricultural sector of the galaxy's outer arm. There, you would be protected from these dangers while you continue to develop at your own pace. Dr. Martinez leaned forward. Agricultural sector? Yes, Sub-Council Zeleth spoke for the first time. Your species shows great promise for food production. The Empire always needs more agricultural worlds. You would be given beautiful planets with good soil and perfect weather. Your people would be very happy there. And if we prefer to stay on Earth? Sarah asked. The three aliens exchanged glances again. That would not be wise, Valthus said. Earth is located in a region of space that contains many dangers. There are ancient weapons left behind by dead civilizations, hostile species that attack without warning, and technologies that could destroy your entire world by accident. But we have defenses, Officer Kim said. Nuclear weapons? Valthus asked gently. Perhaps some primitive energy shields? These would not protect you from the real dangers of the galaxy. There are species out there with weapons that can destroy stars. There are machines that can turn entire planets into dust in minutes. Navigation Prime Corvin spoke up. We have seen many young species try to remain independent. It never ends well. The lucky ones ask for our protection before they are destroyed. The unlucky ones. He did not finish the sentence. Sarah felt her crew's tension growing. These aliens were being polite, but their message was clear: join the Empire or face destruction. How long do we have to decide? She asked. 1 standard galactic year, Valthus replied. That is about 14 of your months. This should give your leaders enough time to understand the wisdom of accepting our protection. The alien reached into his robes and pulled out a small crystal that glowed with soft blue light. This contains all the information your people will need. Details about the agricultural worlds, transportation arrangements, and the benefits of imperial citizenship. It also contains our communication codes so your leaders can contact us with their decision. Sarah took the crystal. It felt warm in her hand and seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. What happens if we refuse? She asked. The three aliens became very still. For a moment, Sarah thought they had stopped breathing, if they breathed at all. Young Captain, Valthus said finally, that would be very unwise. The Empire has protocols for dealing with species that refuse our protection. These protocols exist to maintain order and prevent chaos from spreading throughout the galaxy. What kind of protocols? Dr. Martinez asked. The kind that ensure galactic stability, Zeleth replied. But there is no need to discuss such unpleasant possibilities. Your species seems intelligent. We are sure you will make the right choice. Valthus stood up and the other two aliens followed. We must return to our ship now. Our patrol has other duties to perform. Captain Chang, it has been an honor to meet you and your crew. You should be proud to be the first humans to make contact with the Galactic Empire. Sarah stood as well. The honor was ours, Council Prime. As they walked back to the docking bay, Velthus spoke again. Your ship is well built for such primitive technology. Your people show good engineering skills for their level of development. This will serve you well in your new agricultural role. Thank you, Sarah said, though she was not sure it was really a compliment. The aliens boarded their ship, and the strange door disappeared again. Their ship detached silently and began to move away. Sarah and her crew watched through the docking bay windows as the elegant vessel accelerated smoothly. Within minutes it was gone, leaving no trace that it had ever been there. Back on the bridge, Sarah called a meeting of her senior officers. Well, she said, that was interesting. What did everyone think? They were very polite, said Dr. Martinez, but they basically told us to become farmers or die. Did anyone else notice how they talked about our technology? Engineer Torres asked. They kept calling our fusion drives primitive, but their ship looked like it was using ion propulsion. I have seen more advanced engines in our own shipyards. What do you mean? Sarah asked. Ion drives are clean and efficient, but they are not very powerful. Good for long-distance travel, but not much else. We stopped using them 20 years ago because we developed better systems. Security Chief Davis spoke up. They also seemed very confident that we could not defend ourselves. They mentioned nuclear weapons like that was the best we had. Communications Officer Park added, their translation technology was impressive, but everything else about their ship seemed, I do not know how to put it, old-fashioned. Sarah looked at the crystal in her hand. It was still pulsing with that soft blue light. Set course for Earth, she ordered. Best possible speed. I think our leaders need to see this as soon as possible. As the Endeavor turned toward home, Sarah could not shake the feeling that the aliens had made a serious mistake. They had looked at humanity's exploration ship and assumed it represented the best human technology. They had no idea what humans were really capable of. More importantly, they had threatened humanity. In Sarah's experience, that was never a good idea. The trip back to Earth would take 3 weeks. She hoped it would be enough time for the leaders back home to prepare for what was coming. Because one thing was certain, the Galactic Empire was going to be very surprised when they learned what humans were really like. 3 weeks later, Captain Sarah Chun stood in the most secure room on Earth. The Global Defense Council had called an emergency meeting the moment the Endeavor returned to Earth orbit. Around the oval table sat the most powerful people on the planet: President Martinez of the Americas, Prime Minister Singh of the Asian Federation, Chancellor Roberts of the European Union, and 6 other world leaders, but the real power in the room belonged to 2 people Sarah had never met before. Dr. Elena Vasquez sat quietly at the far end of the table, her dark hair streaked with gray and her eyes sharp as a blade. Next to her was Admiral James Park, a tall man with scarred hands who looked like he had seen real combat. Captain Chun, said President Martinez, please tell us exactly what happened during your encounter with these aliens. Sarah repeated her story for the 5th time since returning to Earth. She described the Zephyrians, their ship, and their offer to relocate humanity to agricultural worlds. When she finished, the room was silent for a long moment. 14 months, said Chancellor Roberts. They gave us 14 months to abandon our home and become space farmers. Or face their protocols for maintaining galactic stability, Sarah added. They made it very clear that refusing was not really an option. Dr. Vasquez spoke for the first time. Her voice was calm and precise. Captain, you mentioned that your crew thought their technology seemed outdated. Can you explain what you mean? Sarah looked around the table. These people clearly knew something she did not. My engineer said their ship appeared to use ion propulsion. He said we stopped using ion drives 20 years ago because we developed better systems. What else did you observe about their capabilities? They had some kind of translation technology that let them speak directly into our minds. Their ship could connect to ours without making any sound. But overall, They seemed very confident that our nuclear weapons and primitive energy shields could not protect us from galactic threats. Admiral Park leaned forward. Did they scan your ship? I assume so. They knew our ship's name and that we spoke English before we told them. Dr. Vasquez and Admiral Park exchanged a look that Sarah could not read. Captain Chun, Dr. Vasquez said, what I'm about to tell you is classified. At the highest levels. You will need to sign several documents before leaving this room. Do you understand? Sarah nodded, though her heart was beating faster. The ship you took to the edge of human space was deliberately chosen for that mission, Dr. Vasquez continued. The Endeavor uses fusion drives and carries only basic defensive systems. It represents the level of technology we want other species to think we have achieved. I do not understand, Sarah said. Admiral Park spoke up. Captain, what do you know? About the Solar Defense Fleet? I know it exists. I know it protects Earth and the colonies. But I have never seen any of the ships. That is because you were not supposed to see them, Admiral Park said. The Solar Defense Fleet operates ships that are very different from the Endeavor. Dr. Vasquez, would you like to explain? Dr. Vasquez touched a control panel built into the table. The lights dimmed, and a holographic display appeared above the table's center. It showed a ship that made Sarah's breath catch in her throat. The ship was massive, at least 10 times larger than the Endeavor. Its hull was black as space itself, and it had a shape unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. Instead of the smooth curves of the Endeavor, the ship was all angles and edges, like someone had built it for war. This is the CNS Indomitable, Dr. Vasquez said. Flagship of the Solar Defense Fleet. It is powered by a controlled quantum tunnel drive that can move the ship from Earth to Jupiter in 37 minutes. Sarah stared at the hologram. 37 minutes? That should be impossible. The Zephyrians think so too, Admiral Park said with a slight smile. Their ion drives need about 6 hours to make the same trip. Dr. Vasquez touched another control, and the display changed to show the ship's internal structure. The Indomitable carries weapons that can destroy a moon-sized asteroid in a single shot. Its shields can absorb the energy from a star and convert it into power for the ship's systems. How long have we had ships like this? Sarah asked. The first quantum tunnel drive was tested 12 years ago, Dr. Vasquez replied. The first combat-ready ship was launched 8 years ago. We now have 47 ships in the solar defense fleet, with more being built every month. President Martinez spoke up. Captain, the reason we kept this technology secret was to avoid exactly the situation we now face. We learned early that advertising our capabilities might attract unwanted attention from hostile alien species. But why did the aliens think we were so primitive? Sarah asked. Admiral Park laughed, though there was no humor in it. Because we wanted them to think that. Every ship that leaves human space carries only older technology. Every signal we send into space is designed to make us look like we just discovered fusion power. We have been very careful to appear harmless. Dr. Vasquez changed the display again. Now it showed a comparison between the Zephyrian ship and a human warship. The differences were startling. Their ship uses ion propulsion, which is clean and efficient, but very slow, she explained. Our ships use quantum tunneling to move through folded space-time. Their weapons appear to be plasma-based, which is powerful but limited by the speed of light. Our weapons fire through dimensional rifts, so they hit their targets instantly regardless of distance. Their shields seem to be standard energy barriers, Admiral Park added. Our shields manipulate gravity itself. When their plasma beams hit our ships, the energy is redirected into hyperspace where it cannot hurt us. Sarah felt like the world was spinning around her. You are saying we are more advanced than the Galactic Empire? In some ways, yes, Dr. Vasquez said. Humans approached technology development differently than most species. Instead of focusing on elegance and efficiency, we focused on practical results and redundant systems. Admiral Park stood up and walked to the holographic display. Most alien species follow predictable technological paths. They develop along the same lines, making the same discoveries in the same order. This makes their technology powerful but also limited. Humans did not follow those paths, Dr. Vasquez continued. We developed quantum mechanics before we perfected fusion power. We discovered dimensional manipulation while other species were still using chemical rockets. Our entire approach to science has been different. Chancellor Roberts asked the question that was on everyone's mind. So, what do we do about the Zephyrian ultimatum? Dr. Vasquez and Admiral Park looked at each other again. This time, Sarah could read their expression clearly. They were looking forward to something. We decline their generous offer, Admiral Park said, politely but firmly. And when they come back with their protocols for maintaining galactic stability? Asked Prime Minister Singh. We show them what human protocols look like, Dr. Vasquez replied. The holographic display changed one more time. Now it showed the entire solar system, with small dots representing every human ship and installation. Sarah counted hundreds of defensive platforms, dozens of warships, and weapon systems she could not even identify. The Zephyrian said there, "Are hostile species out there with weapons that can destroy stars?" Admiral Park said. They were not lying. But what they do not know is that we have been preparing for those threats for years. Dr. Vasquez pointed to several dots near Jupiter. Those are our Starkiller defense platforms. If someone tries to destroy our sun, they will find it protected by gravitational field manipulators that can redirect any energy attack. These platforms. Near Mars are our early warning systems, Admiral Park added. They can detect ships entering our solar system from up to 50 light-years away. Nothing approaches Earth without us knowing about it. And this, Dr. Vasquez said, highlighting, a structure near Earth's moon, is our primary manufacturing facility. It can build a new warship in 6 days using automated systems and matter converters. Sarah realized her mouth was hanging open. She closed it and tried to think of what to say. "Captain," President Martinez said, "we are going to send a response to the Galactic Empire. We want you to deliver it personally." "Me? Why?" "Because you are the one who made first contact," Admiral Park said. "In their culture, that makes you our official representative. They will expect to hear from you." Dr. Vasquez handed Sarah a small device that looked like a more advanced version of the Zephyrian crystal. "This contains our response to their ultimatum. It is written in their language and follows their diplomatic protocols." "What does it say?" Sarah asked. "That humanity appreciates their offer but prefers to remain independent," President Martinez replied. "We also inform them that we are capable of defending ourselves and that any attempts to force us to relocate will be met with appropriate resistance." "You think they will accept that?" Admiral Park shook his head. "No, they will probably send a battle fleet to demonstrate their superior firepower. Imperial species always do that when younger civilizations refuse their protection. And then?" Dr. Vasquez smiled, and for the first time, Sarah saw real warmth in her expression. "Then we show them that their assumptions about human capabilities were incorrect. We are not going to start a war," President Martinez said quickly. "But we are not going to be relocated to agricultural worlds either. Humanity will defend itself if necessary." Over the next hour, Dr. Vasquez and Admiral Park showed Sarah more details about human technology and defensive capabilities. The more she learned, the more amazed she became. Humanity had not just developed advanced technology, they had developed it in secret while making themselves appear harmless to any watching aliens. "Why tell me all this now?" Sarah asked. "Because you are going back out there," Admiral Park said. "The Endeavor will carry our response to the Empire, but this time you will not be alone." The holographic display showed Sarah's ship, but now it was surrounded by other vessels. They were much smaller than the warships, but they had the same angular design and black hulls. "Escort ships," Dr. Vasquez explained. "They will remain invisible until needed, but they will be there. If the Empire decides to demonstrate their displeasure with our response, you will have protection." "Invisible?" "Quantum phase shifting," Admiral Park said. "The ships exist in normal space but are shifted slightly out of phase with reality. Nothing the Empire has can detect them." Sarah looked around the table at the world leaders. They all had the same expression, determination mixed with anticipation. You want this confrontation to happen? She realized. Not want, President Martinez. Corrected, but we are prepared for it. Humanity has been isolated in this corner of the galaxy for too long. It is time for the galaxy to learn that we exist, and that we will not be pushed around. Dr. Vasquez leaned forward. Captain, the Galactic Empire has ruled for 10 million years by convincing younger species that resistance is futile. They offer protection in exchange for submission, and most species accept because they believe they have no choice. But some species might choose differently if they knew there was an alternative, Admiral Park added. If they saw that a young species could stand up to the Empire and survive. Sarah understood. This was about more than just humanity's independence. This was about changing the balance of power in the galaxy. When do we leave? She asked. Tomorrow, Admiral Park replied. The Empire gave us 14 months to respond. We are going to respond in 3 weeks. That should get their attention. As the meeting ended, Sarah signed the security documents and prepared to leave. But Dr. Vasquez stopped her at the door. Captain, there is one more thing you should know. The quantum tunnel drive on your escort ships will allow you to return to Earth in 6 hours if needed. You will not be trapped out there. Thank you, Sarah said. Also, Dr. Vasquez added with that warm smile, try not to laugh when the Imperial fleet arrives. I know it will be tempting, but we want to maintain diplomatic courtesy as long as possible. As Sarah left the secure facility, she looked up at the stars and wondered what the Zephyrians would think when they learned the truth about humanity. Somehow, she did not think they were going to find it as amusing as humans did. 6 months had passed since Captain Sarah Chun delivered humanity's response to the Galactic Empire. The message had been clear and polite. Humanity would remain independent and govern itself. The Empire's reply had been silence, which everyone on Earth knew was not a good sign. Now Sarah stood on the bridge of the Endeavor again, but this time she was not alone in empty space. The edge of the solar system was crowded with human activity. Mining stations orbited distant asteroids. Patrol ships moved between the outer planets, and communication relays carried messages across billions of miles, what the Empire could not see were the 40 invisible escort ships surrounding the Endeavor, their quantum-phased hulls making them completely undetectable. Sarah knew they were there only because Dr. Vasquez had told her their positions before she left Earth. Captain, Officer Kim called from his station, we have multiple contacts approaching. 12 ships, large signatures coming from the direction of Imperial space. Sarah felt her heart start beating faster. How long until they arrive? At their current speed, about 2 hours. Open a channel to Earth, Priority 1. Within minutes, Admiral Park's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, Sarah could see the command center of the Solar Defense Fleet with dozens of officers, monitoring displays and communication panels. Admiral, we have 12 Imperial ships approaching the edge of our solar system. We see them on our long-range sensors, Admiral Park replied. Larger than the patrol ship you encountered. These are warships, Captain. What are my orders? Stay calm, follow diplomatic protocols, and trust your escort ships. Do not reveal human capabilities until absolutely necessary. Let the Empire make the first move. The connection ended, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts and her crew. 2 hours later, the Imperial fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of human space. Sarah had thought the single Zephyrian patrol ship was impressive, but the battle fleet took her breath away. Each ship was over a mile long, with hulls that gleamed like polished metal and elegant curves that made them look more like sculptures than weapons of war. They moved in perfect formation, 12 identical vessels that spoke of power and ancient authority. The largest ship moved ahead of the others and opened communication channels. Human vessel Endeavor, this is Council Prime Valthus aboard the Imperial flagship Eternal Harmony. We are disappointed by your species' response to our generous offer. Sarah took a deep breath and activated her own communications. Council Prime Valthus, this is Captain Sarah Chun. Humanity appreciates the Empire's offer, but we have chosen to remain independent. Captain Chun, we hoped your leaders would show more wisdom. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and young species that refuse Imperial protection rarely survive long. Through her ship's sensors, Sarah watched the Imperial fleet spread out into what she recognized as a battle formation. The ships were positioning themselves to cover all possible escape routes from the solar system. Your response has forced us to demonstrate why Imperial protection is necessary, Valthus continued. We will show you the fate of species that refuse to accept their proper place in the galactic order. Sarah's communications officer whispered to her, Captain, they are charging weapons. Energy readings are off the charts. On her screen, Sarah could see the Imperial ships beginning to glow as their weapon systems came online. Each ship carried plasma cannons that could level cities and energy projectors that could crack the surface of a planet. We will begin with your mining colonies on the outer asteroids, Valthus announced. This will demonstrate our capabilities while minimizing the loss of life. Perhaps seeing our power will help your leaders understand the wisdom of accepting our protection. Sarah looked at her crew. They were all staring at her, waiting for orders. She knew that invisible human ships surrounded them, armed with weapons. That could turn the Imperial fleet into space dust in minutes. But Admiral Park had been clear, let the Empire make the first move. Council Prime Valthus, she said, I urge you to reconsider. Attacking human installations would be an act of war. It would be an act of correction, Valthus replied. Young species must learn their limitations. The first Imperial ship fired its plasma cannons at the nearest mining station. The orange beams of superheated matter streaked through space, carrying enough energy to vaporize a small mountain. Sarah watched in horror as the attack approached the mining station where 300 humans worked extracting metals from asteroids. Then, something impossible happened. The plasma beams simply disappeared. Sarah blinked and looked again. The deadly energy that should have destroyed the mining station was gone, as if it had never existed. The Imperial weapons had fired, but their target remained completely undamaged. What? The word escaped from Valthus before he could stop it. For the first time since Sarah had met him, the alien sounded confused. A new voice cut across all communication channels. It was calm, professional, and completely human. Imperial Fleet, this is Admiral James Park of the Solar Defense Force. Your weapons are being countered by localized gravitational field manipulation. We are bending space-time to redirect your plasma streams into hyperspace. Please cease hostile actions immediately. Sarah could almost feel the shock radiating from the Imperial ships. On her sensors, she watched as they frantically tried to understand what had happened to their weapons. Impossible, Valthus said. No species has that level of gravitational control. Our sensors detect no defense systems around your mining stations. That is because our defense systems operate on principles your sensors cannot detect, Admiral Park replied. This is your only warning. Any further attacks on human installations will be met with appropriate response. The Imperial fleet fired. Again, this time with all 12 ships targeting different human facilities throughout the outer solar system. Plasma beams, particle cannons, and energy projectors all fired at once, creating a light show that could be seen from Earth. Every single attack vanished harmlessly into hyperspace. Council Prime, one of Valthus's officers said over an open channel, our weapons are having no effect. Whatever is protecting their installations is beyond our understanding. Then we will move closer and use our boarding ships. Valthus ordered, prepare assault shuttles. We will take control of their mining stations directly. That was when Sarah's invisible escort decided to reveal themselves. The space around the Imperial fleet suddenly filled with human ships. They appeared without warning, as if reality had simply decided they should exist. 40 sleek black vessels materialized between the Imperial fleet and the human installations, their angular hulls a stark contrast to the elegant alien ships. The Imperial ships immediately tried to target the human vessels, but their sensors could not get a solid lock. The human ships seemed to phase in and out of existence, solid one moment and ghostly the next. How are they doing that? demanded Sub-Council Zelith from one of the Imperial ships. Captain Torres's voice came from the lead human escort ship. Quantum phase shifting. We exist in normal space but slightly out of phase with standard reality. Your sensors are designed to detect matter that exists fully in this dimension. Sarah watched as one of the human escort ships moved directly between two Imperial dreadnoughts. The alien ships tried to fire on it, but their plasma beams passed harmlessly through the phased hull. "This is impossible," Valthus said. "No species should have this level of technology. You have only had spaceflight for a few centuries." "Council Prime," Admiral Park's voice was patient, almost kind. "You made the same mistake that many older species make. You assume that technological development follows predictable paths." Another voice joined the conversation, this one belonging to Dr. Vasquez. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, head of Human Technological Development. Perhaps I can explain what you are seeing." The main screen on Sarah's bridge lit up with a technical display that was being broadcast to all ships in the area. It showed a comparison between typical alien technology and human innovations. "Most species develop technology in a linear fashion," Dr. Vasquez explained. "You master chemical propulsion, then nuclear power, then fusion, then antimatter, and so on. Each step leads logically to the next." The display showed how human technology had developed differently. Instead of following the standard path, humans had made quantum leaps in understanding that skipped entire technological generations. Humans approach science differently. We developed quantum mechanics before we perfected chemical rockets. We discovered dimensional manipulation while we were still using steam engines on our home planet. Our entire technological base is built on principles that most species do not discover for millions of years. On the screen, the differences became clear. While the Empire had spent eons perfecting plasma weapons and ion drives, humans had jumped directly to technologies that manipulated the fundamental forces of reality. "Your plasma weapons are very impressive," Dr. Vasquez continued, "but they are still just directed energy. Our defensive systems redirect that energy by folding space around our installations. The energy goes somewhere else entirely." "Your ships are beautiful and efficient," Captain Torres added, "but they are limited by the physics of normal space. Our ships can phase in and out of reality itself." Navigation Prime Corvin spoke up from one of the Imperial ships. "Even if this is true, you are still just one species. The Empire has thousands of member civilizations. You cannot stand against all of us." Admiral Park's voice carried a hint of amusement. "Council Prime Corvin, how many of those thousands of civilizations joined the Empire willingly?" There was a long pause before Valthus answered. "All species are offered the choice to join peacefully. After you demonstrate your superior firepower," Sarah said. "After you show them that resistance is futile." "It maintains order," Zelith protested. "The galaxy has been peaceful for millions of years because of Imperial authority." "Peaceful? For whom?" Dr. Vasquez asked. "For the species that have been relocated to agricultural worlds? For the civilizations that have been reduced to providing raw materials for Imperial use?" Sarah watched the Imperial ships on her sensors. They had stopped trying to attack and were now just floating in space, their weapons powered down. She could imagine the confusion and fear aboard those elegant vessels. "What do you want from us?" Valthus asked finally. "Nothing," Admiral Park replied. "We want you to leave human space and return to your empire. We want you to report that humanity has declined your offer and is capable of defending itself." "And if we refuse?" This time it was Captain Torres who answered. "Then we will show you what human weapons can do when we are not just defending ourselves." One of the human escort ships moved away from the others and approached a large asteroid floating nearby. Sarah watched as the ship fired a single beam of crackling blue energy. The asteroid, which had been roughly the size of a city, simply ceased to exist. There was no explosion, no debris field. One moment it was there, and the next it was gone. "Matter dissolution beam," Dr. Vasquez explained calmly. It breaks down atomic bonds at the quantum level. Very clean, very efficient. The Imperial fleet drew back in formation, clearly shaken by the demonstration. You would attack the Empire? Valthus asked. Only if attacked first, Admiral Park replied. Humanity prefers peace, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. We suggest you report this encounter to your superiors and recommend that they leave us alone. Sarah could see the Imperial ships beginning to power up their faster-than-light drives. The demonstration had clearly convinced them that humanity was not the harmless species they had thought. This is not over, Valthus said. The Empire has dealt with rebellious species before. Council Prime, Sarah said, I suggest you think carefully about your next move. You came here expecting to intimidate a primitive species into submission. Instead, you found a civilization that can make your weapons useless and your ships invisible to your sensors. What does that tell you about our other capabilities? The Imperial flagship was the first to jump to faster-than-light travel, followed quickly by the rest of the fleet. Within minutes, the edge of human space was quiet again. Well done, Captain, Admiral Park said over the communication channel. Return to Earth for debriefing. As the Endeavour turned toward home, Sarah looked out at the stars and wondered what the Empire's next move would be. She suspected that humanity had just changed the balance of power in the galaxy whether they wanted to or not. The invisible escort ships vanished again, returning to their patrol routes throughout the solar system. To any watching sensors, it would appear that humanity had defeated an Imperial battle fleet with a single exploration ship. Sarah smiled as she realized that the Empire's biggest mistake had been underestimating humanity. It was a mistake they would not make again, but by then it might be too late to matter. 2 weeks after the Imperial fleet retreated from human space, Captain Sarah Chun received new orders that surprised her. Instead of returning to exploration duties, she was assigned to command the CNS Indomitable, the flagship of the Solar Defense Fleet. The massive warship was unlike anything she had ever seen, and walking through its corridors made her feel like she was inside a living weapon. Dr. Elena Vasquez met her in the ship's main briefing room. The walls were covered with displays showing the entire galaxy, with thousands of points of light representing different star systems and civilizations. Captain, Dr. Vasquez said, we have a problem. 3 days ago, our long-range sensors detected a massive Imperial fleet gathering at the edge of their space. Over 200 ships, including some we have never seen before. Sarah looked at the tactical display. The Imperial fleet was enormous, stretching across several light-years of space. They are preparing for war. Yes, but not just with us. Our intelligence networks have intercepted Imperial communications. They are calling this a galactic stability operation. They plan to make an example of humanity that will prevent other species from getting similar ideas about independence. Admiral Park's image appeared on the main screen from his command center on Earth. Captain Chun, the situation has become more complex than we expected. The Empire is not just sending warships. They are mobilizing their entire military structure. What does that mean? Sarah asked. Dr. Vasquez touched a control in the display. Change to show different types of Imperial ships. These are planet crackers, ships designed to break apart entire worlds. These are stellar manipulators that can cause stars to go supernova. And these, she pointed to the largest ships, are what the Empire calls extinction fleet vessels. Sarah felt cold. Extinction fleet? Ships designed to completely sterilize solar systems, Admiral Park explained. The Empire has used them only 3 times in their history against species that they considered threats to galactic order. They are going to try to destroy our entire solar system? That appears to be their plan, Dr. Vasquez said. But they are making a mistake. They still think we are a normal species with normal technology. They are preparing to fight the war they understand, not the war we are capable of. Sarah walked to the main display and studied the Imperial fleet. Even with humanity's advanced technology, 200 warships was a massive force. What are our chances? Better than you might think, Admiral Park replied. Dr. Vasquez, show her the full picture. The display changed again, and Sarah gasped. The galaxy was covered with small blue dots that she had not noticed before. There were thousands of them, scattered across hundreds of star systems. "What are those?" she asked. "Human intelligence networks," Dr. Vasquez said. "For the past 15 years, we have been placing monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. Most alien species never notice them because they are cloaked using the same quantum phase technology as our ships." "We know everything," Admiral Park added. "Every Imperial ship movement, every communication, every strategic plan. We have been watching and learning while they thought they were the only advanced civilization in the galaxy." Sarah realized the scope of what she was seeing. "You have been preparing for this war for 15 years. "We have been preparing for the possibility," Dr. Vasquez corrected. "We hoped it would never be necessary, but we knew that eventually we would encounter a hostile alien civilization. The Empire just happened to be the first." Admiral Park leaned forward. "Captain, there is something else you need to know. We are not going to fight this war defensively. We cannot allow the Empire to threaten human space whenever they feel like it." "What do you mean?" Dr. Vasquez smiled, and Sarah was beginning to recognize that expression. It meant humanity was about to do something that would shock the galaxy. "We are going to take the war to them," she said. "But first we are going to give them one more chance to reconsider." Over the next 3 days, Sarah learned about human preparations that had been hidden even from most government leaders. The Solar Defense Fleet was much larger than anyone had revealed. Over 300 ships of various sizes, all equipped with technology that made them invisible to Imperial sensors. More importantly, humans had built something called the Deep Strike Network. It was a system of automated weapons platforms hidden throughout Imperial space, placed there over years by ships too small and too stealth for the Empire to detect. The platforms can destroy Imperial ships, stations, and even entire fleets, Dr. Vasquez explained. But they are designed to activate only in response to an attack on human space. If the Empire leaves us alone, the platforms remain dormant forever. And if they attack us? Then we demonstrate that humanity can reach every corner of their empire whenever we choose. On the 4th day, the Imperial fleet began moving toward human space. It was a sight that should have terrified any normal species. 200 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy, advancing in perfect formation toward a single star system. Sarah stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as Admiral Park's final message was transmitted to the Imperial fleet. "Council Prime Valthus, this is Admiral James Park of the Solar Defense Force. Your fleet is approaching human space with obvious hostile intent. We offer you one final opportunity to withdraw and avoid unnecessary bloodshed." The reply came back within hours. Valthus's voice was cold and formal. "Admiral Park, the Galactic Empire has tolerated your species' defiance long enough. You will surrender unconditionally or face complete extinction. These are the consequences of refusing Imperial protection." "In that case," Admiral Park replied, "we will demonstrate the consequences of threatening humanity." The Imperial fleet was still 3 days away from the edge of human space when the Deep Strike Network activated. Sarah watched from the Indomitable's bridge as reports came in from across the galaxy. In Imperial space, hundreds of weapons platforms had suddenly appeared and begun targeting Imperial installations. Military bases, shipyards, communication relays, and supply depots were destroyed in minutes, but the platforms were careful. They targeted only military installations and made sure no civilian populations were harmed. It was a precise surgical strike that crippled the Empire's ability to wage war without killing innocent people. "How many platforms did we have out there?" Sarah asked. 837, Dr. Vasquez replied. "Placed over 12 years and covering 43 Imperial star systems." On the main screen, they watched as reports flooded in. The Imperial fleet had stopped advancing and was trying to coordinate a response to attacks happening across half their territory. "Council Prime Valthus," Admiral Park's voice was broadcast on all Imperial frequencies, "you now understand that humanity can strike anywhere in your empire at any time. Your fleet is isolated and cut off from resupply. Your military infrastructure has been severely damaged. We suggest you reconsider your position. The response took several hours to arrive. When it came, Valthus sounded very different from the confident alien who had first visited human space. Admiral Park, your attacks on Imperial territory are acts of war against a civilization that has maintained galactic peace for millions of years. Council Prime, Dr. Vasquez replied, your civilization has maintained galactic submission, not peace. There is a difference. Sarah watched as more reports came in. The Deep Strike Network had done more than just destroy military targets. It had also activated communication beacons that began broadcasting a message to every world in Imperial space. That the message was simple. This is humanity. We have demonstrated that the Galactic Empire can be resisted. Any species that desires independence from Imperial control can contact us through the attached communication frequencies. We offer alliance and protection to any civilization willing to stand up for itself. You are inviting rebellion, Valthus said. We are offering freedom, Admiral Park corrected. Something your empire has denied to countless species for millions of years. Over the next day, something unprecedented happened in Imperial space. Worlds that had been under Imperial control for millennia began declaring independence. Most were species that had been relocated to agricultural worlds or resource extraction planets, but some were civilizations that had joined the Empire voluntarily and now saw a chance to leave. The Imperial fleet found itself dealing with rebellions throughout their territory while still trying to threaten humanity. It was clear they could not do both effectively. Sir, Communications Officer Park reported to Admiral Park. We are receiving contact requests from 47 different species. They all want to know more about the alliance we offered. Sarah realized that humanity had just triggered the largest political crisis in galactic history. The Empire's authority was based on the idea that resistance was impossible. By demonstrating that a young species could not only resist but actually attack Imperial territory, humans had shattered that illusion. Council Prime Valthus, Admiral Park said, your empire is falling apart because your own subjects no longer believe in your invincibility. You have two choices. You can withdraw your fleet and negotiate a peaceful solution, or you can continue this war and watch your empire destroy itself. The Imperial fleet held position for another day while Valthus presumably consulted with his superiors. When the response finally came, it was not what anyone expected. Admiral Park, the Imperial Council has authorized me to negotiate a ceasefire. Sarah looked at Dr. Vasquez in amazement. They are surrendering? Not surrendering, Dr. Vasquez said. But they are admitting that they cannot win this war without losing their empire. The negotiations took place in neutral space, aboard a human diplomatic vessel that was escorted by ships from both fleets. Sarah was chosen to represent humanity because she had made first contact, while Valthus represented the Empire. The meeting was surreal. The same alien who had offered to relocate humanity to agricultural worlds now sat across from Sarah asking for terms that would allow his empire to survive. What does humanity want? Valthus asked. Sarah looked at the list Dr. Vasquez had given her. First, immediate recognition of human independence and sovereignty over our space. Second, establishment of the Terran Accord, an alliance of species that choose independence from Imperial control. Third, gradual transition of Imperial member species to voluntary association rather than forced submission. That would mean the end of the Empire as it has existed for millions of years, Valthus said. Yes, Sarah replied. But it would also mean the beginning of something better, a galaxy where species cooperate because they choose to, not because they are forced. T.O. Valthus was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. My species ruled this galaxy for so long that we forgot other ways of thinking were possible. We believed our system was the only way to maintain order. Order and peace are not the same thing, Sarah said. You maintained order through fear. We are offering peace through choice. The negotiations continued for 3 days. In the end, the Empire agreed to most of humanity's demands. The Imperial fleet would withdraw from human space. Species that wanted independence would be allowed to leave the Empire peacefully. The Empire would transition from an authoritarian system to a voluntary confederation over the next 50 years. In exchange, humanity agreed to help maintain stability during the transition and to share some of their defensive technologies with former imperial worlds that chose independence. As the agreements were signed, Valthus looked at Sarah with something that might have been respect. "You realize what you have done?" he asked. "We defended ourselves," Sarah replied. "You have changed the galaxy forever. Nothing will ever be the same." Sarah smiled. That was the idea. As the Imperial fleet departed human space, Sarah stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched them go. The ships that had come to destroy humanity were now returning to their empire with news that would reshape galactic civilization. Dr. Vasquez joined her at the observation window. "So what happens now?" "Now we build something better," Sarah said. "A galaxy where species cooperate as equals instead of as masters and subjects. It will not be easy. Some imperial species will resist change. Some independent worlds will not know how to govern themselves," Sarah nodded. "But for the first time in millions of years, they will have the choice to try." As the last Imperial ship disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Sarah realized that humanity had accomplished something remarkable. They had not just defended their independence, they had given independence back to an entire galaxy. 1 year after the Imperial fleet retreated from human space, Captain Sarah Chun stood in the command center of New Geneva Station, humanity's first diplomatic outpost in neutral space. Through the massive observation windows, she could see ships from dozens of different species arriving and departing. It was a sight that would have been impossible just months ago. The station orbited a small moon between human space and what used to be the heart of the Imperial territory. It had become the headquarters of the Terran Accord, the alliance that now included 43 different species, who had chosen independence from the crumbling galactic empire. Dr. Elena Vasquez approached Sarah with a datapad containing the latest reports from across the galaxy. "The transition is going better than we expected," she said. 17 more worlds have declared independence this month, and most are requesting membership in the Accord. Sarah looked at the reports. Each one told a story of species that had been under imperial control for thousands of years, finally choosing to govern themselves. Some transitions had been smooth, but others had required help from human advisors and defensive technologies. "Any problems?" Sarah asked. "A few. The Kralik system is having trouble organizing their government. They have been ruled by imperial governors for so long that they do not remember how to make their own decisions. And the Venturi Trade Federation is asking for help with defense systems. Apparently, some imperial hardliners are still trying to force them back into submission." Through the window, Sarah watched as a sleek Zephyrian ship docked with the station. Council Prime Valthus had become an unlikely ally, working with humanity to help other species through the transition to independence. His own people had embraced the change, combining their natural elegance with human innovations to create technologies that neither species could have developed alone. "The Zephyrians are here for the monthly council meeting," Dr. Vasquez noted. "Valthus says he has news about the Imperial core worlds." An hour later, Sarah sat in the main conference room with representatives from 20 different species. The diversity was amazing, beings of every size, shape, and color imaginable. Some breathed oxygen like humans, others required different atmospheric mixes. Some communicated through sound, others through light patterns or electrical fields. What they all had in common was their choice to be independent. Valthus stood at the head of the table, his tall form graceful as always. "Friends, I bring news from the Imperial core worlds. The transition there is accelerating faster than anyone expected." He activated a holographic display that showed the central region of the galaxy, what had once been solid Imperial territory. was now a patchwork of independent worlds, voluntary confederations, and small alliances. The Imperial Council has officially dissolved itself, Velthus announced. The remaining Imperial worlds have formed the Central Galactic Union, a voluntary association based on the principles of the Terran Accord. Sarah felt a mix of satisfaction and amazement. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years had transformed itself in less than 12 months. "What about the hardliners?" asked Captain Jala, a reptilian being whose species had been among the first to join the Accord. "We know some Imperial factions still believe in the old ways." "They exist," Velthus admitted, "but they are a small minority now. Most Imperial species have seen the benefits of voluntary cooperation. Trade is increasing, innovation is accelerating, and conflicts between worlds have actually decreased without the Empire forcing unwilling partners together." Dr. Vasquez leaned forward. "Speaking of innovation, we have completed the first joint research project between human and Zephyrian scientists. The results are remarkable." The holographic display changed to show a new type of spacecraft. It combined the quantum tunnel drives that humans had developed with Zephyrian spatial folding technology and power systems from 3 other Accord species. "This ship can travel from one end of the galaxy to the other in 6 hours," Dr. Vasquez explained. "More importantly, it can carry diplomatic teams, emergency supplies, or defensive systems to any Accord member that needs help." Commander Kess, a crystalline being whose species communicated through harmonic vibrations, spoke up. "The Accord fleet will make it possible to maintain peace without the Empire's threats and intimidation." Sarah looked around the table at the faces of beings who represented dozens of different worlds and ways of thinking. 6 months ago, most of them had been subjects of the Empire, relocated to agricultural worlds or resource extraction planets. Now they were partners in building something entirely new. "There is something else we need to discuss," Sarah said. "Our long-range exploration teams have made contact with species beyond the former Imperial borders. Apparently there are other galactic powers out there, and some of them are not friendly." The room became very quiet. Admiral Park's image appeared on the main screen from his command center on Earth. 3 days ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected a massive fleet approaching from the Andromeda sector, he reported. "Initial analysis suggests they belong to something called the Hegemony. From what we can determine, they are a militaristic alliance that conquers other civilizations and forces them into slavery." Velthus looked concerned. The Empire knew of the Hegemony but avoided contact with them. "They are said to be even more ruthless than the Empire ever was." "How large is their fleet?" asked Captain Jala. "Over 1,000 ships," Admiral Park replied. "Much larger than anything the Empire ever assembled. And their technology appears to be different from anything we have encountered." Sarah felt the old familiar tension of an approaching threat. "How long until they reach Accord space?" "At their current speed, about 6 months." Dr. Vasquez looked at the assembled representatives. "This is exactly why the Accord was necessary. No single species, not even humanity, can handle threats of this magnitude alone. But together, with our combined technologies and resources, we have options." Over the next several hours, the Council discussed their response to the Hegemony threat. Some representatives wanted to try diplomatic contact. First, others argued for immediate military preparation. A few suggested hiding and hoping the Hegemony would pass by their region of space. Sarah listened to the debate and realized how much had changed since her first encounter with the Empire. Instead of one species making decisions for everyone else, dozens of civilizations were working together to find the best solution. "I have a proposal," she said finally. "We do all 3. We prepare our defenses, we attempt diplomatic contact, and we make plans to evacuate civilian populations if necessary. But most importantly, we do it together." The vote was unanimous. Over the following months, Sarah watched as the Terran Accord transformed from a loose alliance into a true galactic confederation. Human defensive technologies were shared with all member species, while alien innovations enhanced human capabilities in return. the Zephyrians, contributed their mastery of spatial manipulation. The Kraliks provided advanced materials that could withstand any known weapon. The Venturis shared their expertise in logistics and supply management. Dozens of other species added their own unique knowledge and abilities. When the Hegemony fleet finally arrived at the edge of Accord space, they found something they had never encountered before: a united alliance of free species prepared to defend their independence. The Hegemony commander, a being called War Prime Draxus, demanded immediate surrender from what he called the rebel coalition that had destroyed the rightful imperial order. Sarah, now serving as the first elected president of the Terran Accord, gave the response that would be remembered for generations. War Prime Draxus, this is President Sarah Chun of the Terran Accord. We are not rebels. We are free beings who have chosen to cooperate as equals. Your demand for surrender is denied. The Hegemony's response was swift and brutal. They attacked the nearest Accord world with weapons designed to break planetary defenses and enslave populations. They discovered that the Accord had learned from humanity's example. The Hegemony weapons struck barriers that redirected their energy into hyperspace. Their ships found themselves surrounded by vessels that could phase in and out of reality at will. Their boarding parties encountered defensive systems that could trap invaders in localized time loops, but the Accord did not stop at defense. Using the combined knowledge of dozens of species, they had developed new technologies that amazed even human scientists. Zephyrian spatial folding allowed Accord ships to attack from multiple dimensions simultaneously. Kraliks materials made it possible to build weapons that fired concentrated gravity waves. Venturi logistics networks ensured that Accord forces could be resupplied instantly across vast distances. The war lasted only 3 weeks. When it ended, the Hegemony had lost half their fleet and their entire command structure. War Prime Draxus found himself facing the same choice the Empire had been given: negotiate or face complete destruction. Unlike the Empire, the Hegemony chose to fight to the end. It was a mistake they did not survive to regret. Standing on the bridge of the new flagship Liberty, Sarah watched as the last Hegemony ship was either destroyed or surrendered. The Accord had won its first major war, but more importantly, it had proven that free species working together could overcome any threat. Dr. Vasquez joined her at the observation window. "What are you thinking about?" "About that first day when the Empire offered to relocate us to agricultural worlds," Sarah replied. "They thought they were being generous, offering protection to a primitive species. And now?" Sarah smiled as she watched Accord ships from dozens of different species working together to secure the captured Hegemony vessels. Now, the galaxy has learned that freedom is worth fighting for, and that cooperation is stronger than domination. A year later, Sarah stood once again in the conference room of New Geneva Station. But now the table was much larger, and it held representatives from over 200 different species. The Terran Accord had grown beyond anything its founders had imagined. Some members were former imperial worlds that had chosen independence. Others were species that had been liberated from Hegemony control. Still others were civilizations that had heard about the Accord and traveled vast distances to join an alliance of free beings. "The quarterly reports show remarkable progress," Dr. Vasquez announced to the Assembly. "Trade between member worlds has increased by 300%. Scientific collaboration has led to breakthroughs that are revolutionizing technology across the galaxy. And most importantly, we have not had a single war between member species." Captain Jala, now serving as the Accord's Minister of Defense, added her own report. "Our defensive capabilities continue to improve. The new fleet designs combine technologies from 15 different species. Any hostile force that threatens Accord space will find us more than ready." Veilthus, who had been elected as the Accord's Minister of Diplomacy, spoke about their ongoing exploration efforts. "Our long-range scout ships have made contact with 3 more galactic civilizations. 2 have expressed interest in trade agreements. The 3rd is asked to join the Accord directly. Sarah looked around the room at beings who represented hundreds of different worlds and ways of life. Each species had brought something unique to the Alliance: technologies, perspectives, resources, or simply the experience of surviving in a dangerous galaxy. "When I first met the Empire," she told the Assembly, "they warned us about the dangers of independence. They said young species that refused imperial protection rarely survived long." She paused and looked out the window at the ships of dozens of different species working together in the space around the station. They were wrong about almost everything, but they were right about one thing: the galaxy is dangerous. There are hostile civilizations, deadly technologies, and threats that could destroy entire worlds. The room was completely silent as representatives from across their galaxy listened to her words. But they made a fundamental mistake. They thought the only way to survive these dangers was through submission to a greater power. They never considered that free beings working together might be stronger than any empire built on fear and domination. Sarah smiled as she looked at the faces around the table, some familiar like humans and Zephyrians, others so alien that communication required technological assistance. Today, the Terran Accord includes worlds from one end of the galaxy to the other. We have turned former enemies into allies, former subjects into partners, and former isolation into cooperation. We have proven that freedom is not just worth fighting for, it is worth building something better together. The applause that followed was unlike anything heard before in galactic history. It was the sound of hundreds of different species, with different ways of expressing approval, all celebrating the same idea. That cooperation between equals was stronger than domination by superiors. As the meeting ended and representatives began returning to their ships, Sarah remained at the window, watching the bustling activity around the station. Ships from dozens of worlds carried diplomats, scientists, traders, and explorers to every corner of the galaxy. Dr. Vasquez joined her one last time. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had accepted the Empire's original offer?" Sarah thought about it for a moment. "We would be farmers on some distant agricultural world, growing food for an empire that treated us like children. We would never have discovered what we were truly capable of. And the galaxy? Still living under imperial rule, still believing that submission was the only path to survival." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching as a group of young beings from different species worked together to load supplies onto a ship bound for a newly independent world that needed help establishing its government. "You know what the best part is?" Sarah said finally. "What?" "The Empire was right about one thing. They said we were like children who had just learned to walk." She smiled as she watched the diverse group of young beings laughing together despite their different languages and customs. They just never realized that children who learn to walk eventually learn to run, and run faster than anyone who has been sitting still for millions of years. As the Liberty prepared to depart New Geneva Station for another diplomatic mission, Sarah looked back at the station one more time. It had started as humanity's first outpost in neutral space. Now it was the heart of a galactic civilization, built on freedom, cooperation, and the radical idea that different species could work together as equals. The Galactic Empire had laughed at humanity's warning that they would not submit to imperial authority. They had thought it was the threat of a primitive species that did not understand its place in the galactic order. They had been right about it being a warning. They had just been wrong about who was really in danger.